Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 58th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 58, I-Expo. The I-Expo Pavilion was an impressive sight. A large building full of super advanced support equipment of all shapes and sizes. Izumi was amazed by everything they had to show. From suits designed to dive into the deepest parts of the ocean, to vehicles capable of leaving the Earth's atmosphere for a limited time. It was all so cool. Mei was zipping around looking at everything that was on show, Chiharu getting dragged around with her. The mad inventor noted down anything that took her interest in a notebook she had borrowed from Izumi. As well as a few theories as to where she stores them, because she was sure Izumi wasn't holding the notebook she had given her the second before she gave it to her. All this stuff is so cool. Izumi beamed as they looked around the pavilion and at the hundreds of items they had to show. Indeed it is, Melissa said with a smile. Of course, most of the equipment is still years away from being deployed into the field. So, don't expect to be using this stuff anytime soon. Oh, well that's a shame, Achiko said, her frown hidden by her mask. I like the dash. What was that orbital thing again? The orbital jumper, Melissa said. I must warn you, it's designed to work with specific quirks, yours might not be compatible with it. Oh, Achiko said with a sigh. That's annoying. Well, you sadly can't have everything, Melissa said. Too much gear can be a detriment after all. I must say, your hero costumes look nice, especially yours, Izumi. It's cute. Plus both your costumes really show off your legs. The two girls blushed heavily. Yeah, they'd been complimented on their looks before, but never by someone as attractive as Melissa. Yeah. Izumi stuttered, her face going beet red. You are, thanks, Achiko said, her face equally red. But we're kind of dating. Oh don't worry, I'm not a danger to your relationship, Melissa said with a smile. I'm more of a friends with benefits kind of girl. The concept of permanently settling down with someone just feels odd to me. Why limit yourself to just one partner when you can share several? Mother preserve me. She's worse than Rolls. Achiko thought, her blush getting deeper. That's two smoking hot foreign girls they've met now who are unafraid to share their kinks or their openness to relationships and stuff. Which is weird that it's happened twice. Maybe she should get 2 yen for this. Okay, so she wasn't sure what Rolls looked like yet. They had only spoken over the phone after all, and in the Snuggle Squad chat room since Himiko decided to add her, but by the way Izumi described her, she sounded hot. A part of her was wondering if Izumi actually had a quirk, one that attracted hot things towards her. How else do you explain why so many hot girls are interested in her? Mei, thankfully, chose that moment to zip back over to them. There's so much cool stuff here. I've got so many ideas for new babies I can make. I am sorry, what? Melissa said, sounding slightly concerned. She means support equipment, Chiharu said. Oh, that makes sense, Melissa said. I put my blood, sweat and tears into making them. Mei said with a smile. Of course, I'm going to call them my babies. Well, I'm glad to see that you're very dedicated to your craft, Melissa said with a smile. Yep. Mei said with a frantic nod. Well, you lot seem to be having fun, the voice of Momo said. Izumi, Achiko, Mei and Chiharu quickly turned to find Momo, Sue and Himiko walking towards them. All three of them were wearing their hero costumes. Momo, Sue, Himiko. What are you doing here? Izumi asked. I had a few tickets to the I-Expo preview event, so I invited 2 of the girls to come with me, Momo replied as the 3 girls walked over to them. We did rock, paper, scissors to decide on who's coming with her, Ribbit, Sue added. As you can guess, we won, Himiko said with a smirk. So, who's this cutie you two are out with? Is she another girlfriend? Izumi and Achiko went bright red before sputtering out an entire list of denials. Melissa giggled at the sight. I take it these are some friends of yours, Izumi? You are, yeah, they're friends of mine, Izumi replied. Melissa, meet my classmates Momo, Sue, and Himiko. Momo, Sue, and Himiko, meet Melissa Shield. That's Melissa Vero Shield, Melissa said with a slight frown. If you are going to introduce me to someone, please use my full name. Sorry, Izumi shuddered, bowing profusely. She did not know why, but Melissa got rather scary there. A slightly horrified look appeared on Melissa's face, looking like she just accidentally kicked a puppy and was deeply regretting it. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spook you like that. I just get a bit agitated when people don't introduce me by my full name. It's a bad habit I'm trying to break. I see, Izumi said shakily. Was that her quirk, the ability to scare the crap out of someone? Wow, I'm not going to lie, you got spooky there, Melissa, Himiko remarked. How did you do that? It's something I learned from my mother, Melissa replied. She can be quite intense at times. I thought you said your mother was an ambassador. Achiko inquired. She is, Melissa replied with a smile. She just has a temper you do not want to be on the wrong side of. Everyone shivered slightly. Her mother did not sound like a woman they wanted to be on the wrong side of. Well, it's nice to meet you, Melissa, Momo said with an awkward smile. It's nice to meet you as well, Momo, Melissa replied with a polite bow. Izumi sighed. Well, at least things were calming down now. Hopefully, Toshinori was having a better time. Meanwhile, I am here, Toshinori said as he stepped into the room. To speak with an old friend. All Might. David gasped as he looked up from the workstation he was at. His assistant Samuel looked up as well. What are you doing here? Toshinori gulped. Ah, right, it was Melissa who he got the invites from, not David. Did Melissa not tell her father that he was invited to the expo? Well, I was invited by your daughter. But I have a feeling she may have neglected to inform you about it. David chucked. Yep, that sounds like Melissa. He shook his head. I'm glad to see you again, All Might. As am I, David. It's been too long, Toshinori said as he put a hand on his friend's shoulder. I can't wait to hear all about the equipment you've been working on. And I can't wait to tell you about it, David said before he turned towards Samuel. Oh, Samuel, can you leave us please? I want to catch up with All Might privately if that's okay. Sure, Samuel said with a nod. Before heading towards the door and leaving the room. The moment the door closed, Toshinori released the embers of One for All and deflated, coughing up some blood. Toshinori, David gasped as he checked on his friend. Are you okay? I'm fine, David, Toshinori replied, wiping the blood from his face. Well, at the moment anyway. One for All's gotten weaker. Weaker. David gasped. How? What happened? I passed it on, Toshinori replied. I no longer possess One for All, only its embers remain, and even then, they're burning up fast. I'm not sure how long I can keep this up. And after the USJ, it's only gotten worse. And I fear it'll only continue to get worse, especially since All for One isn't as dead as we previously thought. He's what? David almost shouted. He's still alive. How? You crushed his skull and cremated the body. Hell, I designed the mobile crematorium you used to incinerate him. How can he still be alive? I don't know, but that creature, that Nomu, it had multiple quirks. Toshinori said. David frowned. Only one man was capable of giving someone multiple quirks, and that was All for One. So, he's still alive then? Shit. After all the effort we went into making sure he stayed dead. How could he still be alive? Unless, he thought before he thought back to his school years, to his classmates, to one young man in particular. One who went missing during the Avalon War. Shit. Back up. Pardon? Toshinori said, sounding confused. One of my classmates back in high school, he had a quirk called Backup, David said. It allowed him to create a backup body for himself out of scraps of animal meat and bones, one that he could switch to in case he died. He survived many a lab accident because of it. He got a bit too reckless at times and had no fear of death, but he became the go-to guy to deal with dangerous experiments that could easily get someone killed, he explained. He disappeared during the Avalon War. At the time I feared that he defected to Avalon, but his name wasn't among those who did. After that, I thought he died permanently somehow. But now, I fear that, during the war, All for One captured him and took his quirk. A horrified look appeared on Toshinori's face. If All for One had this backup quirk, then he wouldn't have been weakened by the battle. He would have just moved to a perfectly healthy body once he was killed. The effects of the battle completely erased. A tear fell from his eye. Young Izumi. I am so sorry. David looked at his friend with a confused look. Izumi? My successor, David, Toshinori replied. You would know her as the unstoppable hero, Yusako. She's the one I passed one for all to. She's strong, kind, always looking out for others. But she's fragile. She went through something horrific a while ago, something I was shamefully a part of. She's recovering well, but it's a slow process. She was the one who found out that All for One was still alive. She broke down when she found out. She is in no condition to face him. But I promised her that I would deal with him myself, he said. But now, I'm not so sure I can keep that promise. I thought I had at least weakened him enough to allow me to finish the job the next time we fought. Or at least, be able to weaken him again, giving her the chance to finish him off for good. But, if you're right, and he does have backup, then he will be perfectly fine. How can I keep my promise to her, to deal with All for One myself? I'm barely able to maintain the last embers of All for One. Yet he will be perfectly fine. How can we defeat a man who can just keep coming back? By helping Izumi the best we can, David replied before he helped Toshinori to his feet and walked over to his workstation. We can design and make gear for her. I can easily make her a costume just like I made you one, maybe even offer some hardware and software upgrades for that robot wolf she has, or improve his armor. It might not be enough to fully defeat All for One, but we can even the playing field. But then, no matter what we do, backup will still be on the field. As long as he has that, we can't truly kill him. If only there was a way to permanently erase someone's quirk. A light bulb appeared above Toshinori's head. Yes, there is. Also, why is there a light bulb above my head? David sighed. That's one of my co-workers. His quirk basically puts a light bulb over someone's head when they are suddenly struck with an ingenious or inspired idea, insight, or revelation around him. His office is nearby, so we're probably in range, he said. Anyway, back on track, what do you mean, yes there is? Yue recently took on a ward, a young girl whose body was used to make bullets for a villain. Quirk erasing bullets, Toshinori said, a slight smile on his face. It was a good thing that Kaizome had brought several of those bullets with him. It pained him how much pain Eri had gone through to make those infernal things, but maybe, just maybe they could use that madman's research for something good. How long do they last? David asked. A few hours at most, Toshinori replied. But, if I'm right, that's all we'll need. The bullet will erase All for One and every quirk he has, including whatever regeneration, reduced aging process, and backup quirks he may have. He's over 200 years, after all, only kept alive by the quirks he stole. Take all those quirks away, and with any luck, he'll die in seconds. Backup should not be able to kick in. That's all we'll need then, David said as he started looking through files on his computer. I wouldn't recommend shooting him with one of these bullets from long range. He may have a quirk that allows him to stop a bullet in midair. We need to find a way to shoot him at close range, he said before he concentrated on the screen, trying to find the perfect close-range delivery system. Here. Ember Celica. A pair of gauntlets that fire specialized shells with the user's punches. They were used by an American pro hero 60 years ago. Looks like we found our delivery system. Looks like it, Toshinori said with a smile. With a few modifications, they should be able to use it to deliver a quirk eraser bullet right into All for One's face, maybe even make it retractable to hide it. Of course, it does mean he will have to punch All for One in the face again, but this is All for One's face they were talking about here. He didn't mind punching him in the face again one bit. What happened to the pro who used them? She had her quirk stolen by All for One, David replied with a frown. By the looks of it, she, alongside 7 others, had a run-in with him 60 years ago. She was the only one to survive but retired due to both injuries sustained and her lack of a quirk. She died 10 years later. All the more reason to use this against him, Toshinori said with a smile. Looks like we'll be able to offer this Blaze a chance of revenge. Indeed we will, David said with a smile. Now, all we need to do is modify it for your arms, make it retractable, and find out who made those bullets in the first place so I can send the shield carrier after him. David, you are not sending your personal yacht to deal with the guy, Toshinori said with a sigh. Toshinori, from what you've told me, he ripped a girl apart to make those bullets, David said with a frown. As useful as these bullets are, he can't be allowed to get away with that. And he won't, Toshinori said. Trust me, he'll get what's coming to him in time. But he is not our concern right now. All for One, however, is. David nodded. Right, we can drone strike the other guy later. All for One needs to be dealt with now, he said before he got to work modifying the gauntlets for their new purpose. It wasn't Toshinori's style, but he needed a way to finally bring down All for One, to keep the promise he made to Izumi, and these gauntlets looked to be the best option. With them, he was going to bring an end to the symbol of evil once and for fucking all. Even if it kills him. Meanwhile, Izumi sighed as the now larger group sat down in a cafe nearby to the museum they just left. They talked a bit on the way there. Melissa was very interested in their equipment and hero costumes, even going over them and offering advice. She was even able to figure out how their quirks worked just by examining their costumes. This girl was smart. Wait, you worked on Island's security system? May asked. Well, a bit, yes, Melissa replied, Eri happily sitting on her lap. After the Avalon War, the Island Security Council decided to upgrade the island's security, and my dad was asked to help out. I didn't program it, or do much. All I did was make a suggestion about something that they liked and ended up using, she said. Don't ask why a child was brought into a meeting about the island's security. I was a 6-year-old who spent most of her free time designing things and laying Lego mines all over the place. I'm kind of the reason why everyone has armored slippers around here. Wow, you must have been quite devious as a child, Momo said. Melissa chuckled. I was a bit. Being the daughter of a member of the Island Science Council kind of allowed me into places I probably shouldn't have been allowed in. I became rather infamous for leaving Legos all over the place. I stepped on a Lego once, Sue said. It was not a pleasant experience. Parents had to change the ceiling ribbit. I'm not allowed to play with Legos, May said sheepishly. Not since the last set Kana got me exploded. How do you blow up a Lego set? Chiharu asked, a worried look on her face. I have no idea. May replied with a shrug. Izumi sighed, sitting on a different table since there wasn't room for everyone around the other one. Well, they seem to be having fun. Durandal nodded, indeed. Glad they're all getting along. But, I must admit, there is something odd about Melissa. What do you mean? Izumi asked, sounding confused. It's her attitude. How she switched from formal and polite to outgoing and generous, it was too easy, Durandal replied. Most people can't switch like that without a noticeable change, hers, however, was too fluid. It's almost familiar, in a way. Like I've met someone like that before. Plus there's something else. I did a bit of digging, her mother, Felicity Shield, is dead. What? Izumi gasped. How can she be dead? Melissa said she was an ambassador. She died in a villain attack the day after Melissa was born, Durandal said. Felicity wasn't even an ambassador, she was a scientist. What's more, Melissa was declared brain dead as well. For all intent and purpose, Melissa died that day. And yet, here she is, still alive and with nothing inherently wrong with her. According to the news, David spent 3 years trying to revive her, and somehow succeeded. Literally, he said in an interview that he's not sure how he was able to revive her, saying it was a miracle. It's why they've never been able to replicate it. They called her the miracle child, because it took one hell of a miracle to revive her. Melissa was brain dead? Izumi said with a whisper before looking back at the girl in question. How is she alive? No one's ever recovered from brain death. Did Avalon have something to do with this? I doubt it, Durandal replied, shaking his head. Avalon didn't exist back then. Plus All Might backed up David's story, and we know for a fact that he doesn't have ties to Avalon, he explained. No, this is something else. Something unrelated to Avalon. Either Toshinori and David are hiding something, or it was indeed a miracle that Melissa was revived. Izumi frowned. This was starting to sound rather suspicious. Melissa was brain dead, and yet, there she was, alive and well, with no disabilities whatsoever. She would have expected someone to have recovered from brain death would have a learning disability or something. Yet she was perfectly healthy. Was it a miracle that revived her, or did David and Toshinori do something to bring her back, and not tell anyone about it? If it was the latter, then what was it? Here's your drink, a voice said as a glass was placed on the table in front of her. Thanks, Izumi said before she reached for the glass, but stopped. She recognized that voice. She turned quickly and, to her surprise, saw Hitoshi and Nito dressed as waiters. Hitoshi, Nito. What are you doing here? Izumi asked. We volunteered to help out during the expo, Hitoshi replied. Got flown out here for free and get to explore the expo during our breaks. Plus we paid for being here as well, Nito added. Always good to earn a little bit of extra cash over summer. Izumi smiled, that's great. I hope you two have fun. The two boys nodded before they noticed Melissa and the other girls. Who's that Achiko and the others are with? Hitoshi asked. Oh, her? Izumi replied. Oh, that's Melissa Vero Shield, she said, making sure she used the girl's full name. She's a student at the I-Island Academy and is showing us around. Oh, I see, Hitoshi said. Well, I hope you have fun, he said before he let out a loud yawn. You okay? Izumi asked, looking worried. I have insomnia, I'm suffering from jet lag, and I haven't had any coffee yet. I am dead on my feet right now, Hitoshi replied. I'd prefer to be fast asleep right now in a bed full of cats. I'm sure you'll be able to get through the day easily, Nito said with a smile, trying to reassure his friend. Nito, I need an extra strong coffee to get through this day, Hitoshi said, a grumpy look on his face. Something I haven't had yet. There was suddenly a loud explosion. Okay, that woke me up, Hitoshi said, looking a lot more awake now. What was that? Achiko asked, looking around in surprise. Oh, that would be the Villain Attack Arena, Melissa replied. It's a game where you have to defeat a group of villain bots as quickly as possible. Oh, that sounds like fun, Himiko said with a grin. Count me in. May said loudly, Isaac passing her railgun. I can show off my babies. Please don't call them that in public, Momo said with a sigh. Someone might get the wrong idea. Why would they do that? May asked, still smiling. Momo sighed. You are impossible sometimes. Think you want to give it a try, Izumi? Durandal asked. Sounds like fun. Yes it does, Izumi said before she stood up. Well, I'll talk to you guys later, she said as she and Durandal rushed off towards the Villain Attack Arena. Have fun, Nito said as he and Hitoshi waved her off. Hey, wait for us. Himiko shouted as she and the other girl gave chase, not wanting to be left behind and miss out on all the fun. It only took them a few moments to get to the Villain Attack Arena. It was a large arena surrounding a rocky mountain with a river in front of it and had several mock villain robots all over it. Okay, now this is cool, Himiko beamed as she looked over the place. A hand drifted over the hilt of one of her swords. I am going to have fun out there. Hey, is that Anesa down there? Ochako asked. The group looked up and, indeed, there was Anesa, wearing his hero costume and blasting away all of the robots with a huge gust of wind. 13 seconds. The announcer shouted as Anesa's whirlwind of destruction dispersed. Yep, overwhelming power as always, Momo remarked. Is he a friend of yours? Melissa asked, a curious look on her face. Izumi nodded. Yep, she's one of our classmates. Meet Anesa Yarashi, hero named Gale Force. He's one of the strongest members of our class. But he can be a bit overenthusiastic at times. Hey guys. Anesa said as he landed in front of them. You have to try this place out. It's awesome. There is just so much awesome stuff here. He said loudly before he noticed Melissa. Who's she? I'm Melissa Vero Shield, Melissa replied politely, bowing politely as well. It's great to meet you, Melissa. Anesa said with a bow and smashed his head into the ground. Momo sighed. I should have seen that coming. Yep, that's Anesa all right, Ochako said. I think I should make him a hat with a thick cushion inside of it, Mei said. It'll stop him from breaking his head open every time he bows. Oh my, Melissa said with a surprised look on her face. He does seem a bit excited. So Izumi, want to give it a go? Please do. Anesa added, a small trickle of blood falling down his face. I want to see you all take part in this. It's so much fun. Izumi chucked. Well, that's why we came here in the first place. Do you want me to sit out on this? Durandal asked. Might be a good idea, Izumi replied, looking over the villain attacks rules. I won't be able to wear you from the get-go, and the 10 seconds spent putting you on will just cut into my time. Understood, Durandal said. Kick ass out there. A few moments later, Izumi stood in the starting area of the villain attack. The announcer introduced her just before she powered up 1 for all to 9%. Alright, there are multiple villain bots, some of whom are behind cover. I won't be able to just stand here and air blast them, so I will have to move around. But, just because I can't hit them from here she thought as the starting bell went. She shot forward, using gearshift at a low gear to speed herself up, and kicked one of the bots, but at the same time she sent out 2 air blasts. Destroying an additional 2 doesn't mean that I shouldn't use it. She shot off towards another robot, sending off another 2 air blasts, but only one of them hit. The other was slightly off. Maybe she should ask Mei to modify her gloves to make firing off air blasts more accurate. But she could worry about that later. Back to smashing up robots. By the time she made it back to the starting point, 9 seconds had passed. She smiled as she saw Ochako and the others cheering. With a smile on her face, she quickly left the arena and rejoined her friends. That was brilliant, Izumi, Ochako said with a smile, impressed by her girlfriend's display of power. You were so cool. Eri cheered. Yes, that was quite impressive, Melissa said with a curious look in her eyes. That power, so much like Uncle Might. Are their powers similar? Yeah. That was so hot-blooded. Anesa said loudly. But, what I don't understand is why you didn't just jump up into the air and air blast them all. Wouldn't that have been quicker? Izumi shuddered, whilst Ochako and Durandal glared at Anesa. Oh, right, sorry. Forgot you had a fear of heights, Anesa said nervously. I'm so sorry. He said, once again bowing his head into the ground. That's okay, Izumi said, waving him off. It's an easy thing to forget. It shouldn't be, Ochako thought with a frown. Well, carrying on after that little downer, Himiko said before she clasped her hands together. So who's next? Asked with a grin, completely missing that the arena had been reset and someone else was already having a go. Well, Sue said before there was the sound of metal getting crushed. Less than a second. The announcer shouted, a shocked look on her face. Redcoat just blew every other time out of the water. What a display of power. What? The gathered students, as well as everyone else watching, gasped before they looked down at the arena, spotting a girl with long red hair wearing the uniform of CI Academy. Every robot in the arena had been crushed. She hadn't even moved from the starting spot. She beat all those robots, without even moving. How the hell did she do that? What school is she from? CI, I think. What kind of hero name is Redcoat? How the hell is a student from some fifth-rate school able to show us up like that? Izumi frowned. She recognized that girl, just from the hair alone. Rolls-Royce Phantom. And she just showed them just how powerful she was. Down in the arena, Rolls smirked, using her quirk to overhear the shocked gaps from everyone watching. Oh, how she enjoyed hearing the shock coming from the students from the larger schools like UA, Helsing, Millennium, and so many others. The so-called best of the best. Well, look, their best looked compared to her. After all, she was leagues ahead of everyone else here. Well, apart from one other. Her eye slowly looked over the crowd watching her, focusing on one individual. Well, it's finally time to meet face to face, Marietta. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 59. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.